tech industry. Through Trish leadership, TAF transitioned from out-of-school programs to become a statewide leader in public education, operating TAF Academy, a 6th to 12th grade award-winning public school co-managed with the Federal Way Public School District, partnering with public school to transform them to promote the highest level of student learning and increasing the number of teachers of color through the Martinez Fellowship. Trish is a committed, proactive leader serving on boards of organizations that focus on children and education. Welcome, Trish. Yeah. Our second panelist, Rashad Norris, Brother Rashad, received his Bachelor of Arts in Marketing and Communication with a minor in English from the University of Puget Sound, where he also played basketball. He earned his Master's in Public Administration from Evergreen State College. As the founder of Relevant Engagement LLC and HERO, acronym for Honor, Education, and Respect Others, Incarcerated Young Men Mentoring Program, he has extensive experience over 15 years in working with teachers, administrators, nonprofit organizations, community-led programs, initiatives, students from various backgrounds, incarcerated youth, young adults, and most importantly, our youth of color around culturally relevant engagement. Viola?
Thank you, Sabine. Before I do my introductions, I would also like to take a moment to recognize the Indigenous and Native presence here in Austin, Texas. Here we are on the land of the tribes of Humanos, Tonkawa, Lipanapachi, Qualhutecan, and the Comanche tribes. I would now like to introduce my co-moderator, our last panelist and Code.org's CEO. My co-panelist, Dr. Sabine Thomas, is a naturopathic physician and an infant and early childhood mental health practitioner. With degrees from Mount Holyoke College, Bastyr University, and a tenure from Ada Developers Academy, she blends her skills in community engagement, user experience, socio-emotional learning to support parent engagement and teacher recruitment around computer science education in the Northwest region. Our final panelist, Dr. Brown, is a professor of teacher education at Stanford University and the author of the book, Science in the City, Cultural Relevant STEM Education. His research explores the relationship between student identity, classroom culture, and academic achievement in science education. He focuses on the social connotations and cultural politics of science in the classroom, as well as how teacher and student interactions serve to shape learning opportunities. Dr. Brown's work in science education in urban communities focuses on developing collaborative curricula cycles and classroom pedagogy. And Dr. Brown's recent work explores how race, language, and cultural impact students' learning in urban science classrooms. Lastly, I would like to introduce our Code.org CEO, Hadi Partovi, who will then share his welcome address. Hadi is a tech entrepreneur and investor born in Iran. Hadi grew up during the Iran-Iraq War. His school did not offer computer science classes, so he taught himself to code at home on a Commodore 64. After immigrating to the United States, he spent his summers working as a software engineer to help pay his way through high school and college. Hadi graduated from Harvard University with a master's degree in computer science and pursued a career in technology starting at Microsoft before creating Code.org in 2016. Today, Hadi leads a team of nearly 100 members to ensure access to computer science by every student. Welcome, Hadi.
Thank you so much. Good morning. I'm going to keep my comments really short so we can get into the panel. On behalf of Code.org, I want to extend a warm welcome to our panelists, Trish, Rashad, and Dr. Brown. The current representation of Black students and Black teachers in K-12 computer science, although it's been steadily growing for the last 8 years, is still far from balanced. And the gap is there not only because of the unequal access to computer science courses, but also because of the challenges of recruiting and retaining students and talent in the field of computer science. At Code.org, we're committed to ensuring access to computer science to all students, with a special focus on closing gaps and broadening participation among underrepresented youth. As we hopefully, and I'm going to knock on wood, as we hopefully start closing the chapter on this terrible pandemic, we all recognize that the pandemic has widened the digital divide among marginalized populations, making this work more important than ever. And so if you think about what school year 2022 is going to look like, what can we do to not only make back the ground that we lost from the pandemic, but then do more to even close gaps? We're so delighted to have you here with us and eager to hear more about your insight on this important topic. So once again, welcome to our panel, and thank you, Leolyn and Sabine, and I'll let you all take it off from here.
Thank you so much, Hadi, for your welcome. And panelists, like we said before, thank you all so much for being here. As Sabine has said, the aim of this first panel is to continue to explore the why for recruiting Black students and teachers into computer science education. So recently, our chief academic officer shared a Gallup study stating that 78% of Black parents and guardians agree that learning computer science is important. However, our data also shows Black students, who represent 15% of the national student demographics, account for only 5% of those taking the AP computer science exam. These numbers are an important place to start and display the reality of the representation of Black students in high school CS education. Parents are clearly curious and engaged, but this interest is not reflected in the numbers of students moving forward with AP computer science. So Trish, we'll start with you. Can you start us off and share why we should be concerned about this disparity shared in these numbers, and how has this impacted your mission at TAF?
Well, yeah, I think we should care about it. I think the important thing, though, is for us to realize that our public school systems were never built for Black students. And so we are trying to fit Black students into a structure that was not designed for them, period. So when you look at schools that offer AP classes, it's hard to get students, Black students, into AP computer science, right? Or AP world government and English and all those things. So we certainly are not going to get them into AP computer science because they already know that those classes are not meant for them. So, but when you look at a school that's majority students of color, they don't even have that array of classes. So it's about availability. When I look at the work we do, what we focus on mostly is around giving kids those core STEM skills that they need: critical thinking, problem solving, being able to ideate, communicate, and create community for whatever it is they do. And the way we introduce computer science is through projects. So we're a project-based learning model. And so all of our students, so it's not if you want to, it's all of our students take those classes, right? That's one of the issues that we have. We have some classes for some kids and some for others in our traditional public schools. And the way we get around it is saying that this is a requirement for everybody. And if you actually like programming, after you've taken it through your math class, if you actually like it, then we provide a mechanism for you to even explore it further. But the whole goal is to get everybody's feet wet in it and not make it an option.
Dr. Brown or Brother Rashad, feel free to jump in as well.
I'm happy to add to that idea. And I want to point to the infrastructure, meaning what are we really talented at? The US is leading the world in basketball. The US is leading the world in football. You can find someone to teach you how to play basketball. There's a basketball court in every school, a ball available at any time. If I'm interested in learning about code, if I'm fortunate enough that my school offers something, I need a computer that has the access to engage, and I need the expert. So we're suffering from real infrastructure. So let's start at one level. We need the teachers. And I'm not talking about the teachers in school, because we have an irrational expectation that an elementary school teacher who's teaching because they love kids is now going to be an expert at science, math, history, English, and oh, by the way, let's add computer science. Yeah. So we need to train an infrastructure that gives us a wealth of computer science educators. Now, here's let's live in the real world. If I know CS and I can code, I can go make $60,000 as a teacher, or I can make 150 working for some company or well beyond that, right? So what's the incentive to embed a structure that provides students access? This is the last thing I'll say. we have an opportunity in front of us. Those of you who have children, like I had children, the way that our work system is structured is we're working to 5:30. Our kids get out of school at 3:15. So you tell me, what are we doing between the hours of 3:15 and when parents are available to pick their kids up? You know, there's an entire opportunity there in between those hours to embed after school structures that really empower young people to learn and learn early, but it requires us to teach the teachers.
Mm-hmm. And Dr. Brown, man, you hit it right on the head. I was just going to add my way of engagement and what I've seen in the schools as well. I remember being in a particular school in Washington State and walking through and having to go and give information around the college that I work for. And when I'm going into these classrooms, I'm seeing nothing but our white and Asian students, and I see none of my Black and brown students. But in the lunchroom during lunch when I was there, they're all around sitting around, but they're not in the college going classroom where I'm introducing what programs and so forth we have at the particular college at Highline. And while I'm in there, I go and ask the teacher, I said, man, where's my Black and brown students at? And I asked her, like, did they get the invite as well? And she tells me that, you know, she gave it to all the senior English classes. That's who she invited. So then I go back and I said, well, you telling me that there's no Black and brown babies in the senior classes, senior English classes? And then she actually shows me the report from her school. And it shows that none of those Black and brown babies were in senior English classes. None of them. So I'm sitting here thinking, like, man, how else are we getting the information to our Black and brown babies if they're not even in particular classes that are getting all this information pertaining to certain fields and certain programs? So I go to the students and I ask them, hey, why are you not in senior classes, senior English classes? And one of them said this, and it hurt my heart. And they said, well, I don't need a foreign language. And I said, no, young man, that has nothing to do with this. Like, for you to even, why are you even answering this question like this? Why? How does this answer come out and we are still allowing you to just pass through these school without you knowing that you need senior English? Like, this is a tragedy that we're having right now in these schools. And Sister Trish is right on. You know, we're trying to put a square in a circle. You know, that's tough. It wasn't meant for us in the first place. So now we're trying to say, please, not integrate, let's collaborate. Let's do that now. And that's a whole different step. That's a whole tear down and we build it together. You know what I'm saying? So that now we're talking about collaboration. We're not talking about integrating and just helping us put some program in. So we just got to be real with this. This is going to be a tough feat, but you know, I think it can be it's doable. And I love your idea, Dr. Brown. You're right. I think we need to make our own institution.
Yeah, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. I mean, we're trying to put a Band-Aid on a system that needs just to be torn down and rebuilt with the focus on voice and choice of students, all the students. Right now, it's just, you know, we put one Band-Aid in after another. First, it was math. Everybody needs to be better at math. So let's bring in some cool, fancy online math programs. Like, that's going to make a difference. Right now, we're talking about everybody needs computer science. Well, what we're doing there is we're actually widening the gap. National Science Foundation, about 6 or 7 years ago, I was at a conference there, and they were talking about how the previous 20 years of work to get more kids of color and more girls into computer science actually widen the gap, because people were afraid to talk about, we are specifically targeting kids of color, specifically underrepresented kids of color. And so then they would just open up the programs they had to everybody. And now who's going to come? The same people who always come, right? Because they're the ones who get the information first. They're the ones who have the family structure and the income structure that can get them there first. And so now we're widening the gap. So this whole thing in Washington State, and I don't know if it's true anywhere else, about this computer science for all is widening the gap, because there's no money mandate behind that says every single school needs to now have enough equipment, to Brother Brown's point, enough equipment, enough infrastructure and all that to make it happen. They're just saying, make it happen. I didn't sign on to that. You know, I mean, that's just crazy. We need to think of a better way to do that.
And to add to that, I think we need to kind of in the spirit of wisdom, look backwards to say, well, if people are thriving in new industries, where are African Americans thriving in industries that are emergent? So if I take engineering and say, well, where are those who are getting the most degrees in engineering coming from? Well, that answer, North Carolina's A&T University, historically Black college and university. So it's not that they have some secret sauce. The question is, what is happening in that institution that's producing these outcomes? If I go to look at biomedical research, the leading institution right now in graduating PhDs or seeing PhDs, one of those is the University of Maryland, Baltimore County, where Freeman Hrabowski has created a specific program to empower the students. And here's one thing that they share in common. This is part of what my research works on, is if I'm at North Carolina A&T and I'm in a classroom and I'm learning code, I am not questioning whether or not I should be here, whether or not people like myself are involved in the coding community. And why that's important is the psychology of performance. Right. There are studies that say if I have doubt about who I am and I encounter something that's difficult, I'll then say, you know what, I shouldn't be here. If I have a history that says I'm not supposed to be part of this group. But the inverse is if I'm supposed to be part of the group, it's just difficult. And I will get through it because I will get through it. So the question is, when you think about building a generation of computer scientists, where are the schools that say, all right, we're going to focus on computer science and give early access to African Americans, and unashamedly saying, let's focus on getting them teachers who look like them. Let's make sure we have access to computers, and let's do often, do well, meaning this is not complicated. Any skill that is mastered is one that is practiced every day for years at a time. So we're overcomplicating it by trying to change an infrastructure. Well, we don't need permissions to take over one institution, one school, and we need to look historically at where that success was found. And it is found in institutions where the identity politics are reduced because we affirm who people are. And this crosses gender. If you want to look at women physicists, the majority of them at large volumes are coming from female-only institutions, and we need to look at that kind of focus and say, how does this translate over to computer science? I will offer a critique, and here's a critique. Those in computer science have failed to even delve into the education research to find out what have educational researchers in schools done that works, and let's translate this over to computer science.
Go ahead. I'll let you ask another question because that sounds like we just about to be stuck for a minute.
Yeah.
We all are like.
No, go ahead because I had some other. Go ahead.
Really great. I will make a comment as you all are talking about where students are coming from that are succeeding and the importance of seeing yourself in these roles. I will share a story that I always tell when I'm on panels talking about my experience with computer science. I went to University of Illinois in Urbana-Champaign, which is a well-known engineering school. And I won't say it with the year, but I'll just say that was the year that those really cool Mac computers that had the color on the back, those big ones first came out. And my mom, I was a freshman, and my mom was like, I think that computers are going to be a big thing. You should, maybe you should major in that. And my first thing was like, Mom, that's for white men. I'm not doing that. And went a whole different pathway. So it wasn't about me. I knew I was smart. I was at this great school, but that little thing of I didn't see myself in that world. And I made that quick decision to just not even think of going into it. So thank you. Dr. Brown, you have started talking about it already. So it kind of leads into our next question that we had. With the conversation that's happening already, and specifically those, that data that we shared at the beginning, how can we create this sense of urgency, or what can we do to help with teachers and getting teachers educated who may not be already in this field? I'm not sure if you know, but for code.org, our PD are for teachers who have no experience in computer science. So those are those teachers you're talking about. How do we get them set up for success?
So let me offer a paradigm redirection. I don't pretend to be normal in that sense, that I think a paradigm has to shift. And here's the paradigm. I don't want a teacher to add it to the curriculum. Nice. I don't want a school to add it to the curriculum. I would love code.org to say, you know what, we're going to offer free computer science training from 3 to 6, from grades 3 to 8 for every elementary school in the state of Washington. And when that works well, we'll move to California and we'll move to Texas. Like, do it for them, because the fiscal infrastructure of schools doesn't provide teachers with the opportunity to make a reasonable decision. So think about it. I don't know the data of a person who learns a coding language. I do know people who learn coding languages as second jobs, switching careers. Inevitably, they have moved out of schools into the professional world of tech companies. And this is a Bay Area phenomenon. So I love the idea of training the trainer, but we need to rethink the paradigm altogether, because adding something to a school is adding an additional burden. Now, going to the question, I'm trying to answer the question. The question is, how do we build this generation of teachers? Well, we have to build an infrastructure that supports them, because people teach because they love kids. They don't love subject matters. Yeah. And I think that is the thing that I think is lost often. A person who loves kids is going to spend their career teaching, and they may teach computer science because they think it's interesting. But I don't think a person who loves computer science will do that work. So let me offer the other. I'm a proponent that providing kids opportunities to be producers will change the paradigm, right? So the minute kids shift their thought from saying, hey, I'm a consumer of technology to I get to produce my own, I think then you'll see a huge shift. And we're seeing it now. Kids making their own games, their own websites, their own businesses. I'm actually more encouraged than I am discouraged about how African Americans are engaging in computer science.
And let me add to that, because, Dr. Brown, you make a good point. You said something earlier around athletes and how we're entertainers and so forth. And, I read this interesting statistic around Black folk in America taking up maybe, I don't know the percentage, but I know it's a high percentage of social services jobs. Like a lot of our kids do see us doing social service jobs, always trying to help somewhere around that line. So, I continue to ponder and just think that, if you continue to see those type of positions and you see us in the way that we come in those positions oftentimes is almost like, sluggish, not wanting to do it either. We're trying to get them to go to another position that we don't even see ourselves in, So if I don't see nobody who is in CS programming or don't know, how am I trying to put somebody to tell them they should go do this as well? Especially if they're seeing you more often than anybody else that you wanted them to go and be. So I would take it as far as saying that a lot of our coaches, we need to expand our athletic scope, and we need to expand the holistic scope of that athlete and start to include some of these things inside these practices. Even if it's not a true practice, maybe include it on a day that you work with your student athlete and let them know the importance of expanding their scope of wanting to be and the skill set that they have to be successful in fields like this. So I think that there's multiple ways that we can go at this. And I think that there's different agents that can play a part of it. And I think that it will work if we just start to expand the way we present this information to our young people and let them know that this is a possible field for you to go into. And most of my outreach skill sets and the strategies that I use, it comes from Edward Nichols. And he talks about the philosophical aspects of cultural differences. And he talks about how we as Black and brown folk, we need to see images. We need to see there needs to be a rhythm with what you're giving me. There needs to be something that I can feel it inside. I can see it. I can feel it. It represents me. And not only do I see it that one time, but I see it quite often. So it needs to be something that's repetitive, and it needs to be consistent. So that's where I became successful in the way that I do my outreach with young people. So I'm always trying to present them new information, and I keep trying to bring people in and let them see people that look like them who are in these fields. So it's important that we just expand the way that we already are connected with our young people through all the other social services that we have created or we're a part of, and start to infiltrate it by saying, you know what, let's bring in some other people from the community that are in these other programs and show these babies that this is something else that you can do besides this right here.
And I think you do that at school early, right? I mean, I'm gonna go back to our kids spend 6.5 hours a day in school. And all these this is the reason why TAF moved from the out of school space to be in a school. So because in the out of school space, you can only help the kids that can get there, and that's great. But you get to all the kids if you change their school environment. And that's our whole focus, is getting kids hands-on early, building up their confidence early, bringing in people who look like them to work with them, get them used to working with adults. This starts in kindergarten. And then as you work up and you get older and you have opportunity to do job shadows and internships, it just becomes a part of what you do. What we're talking about right now is something completely separate. We're talking about computer science as if it's its own entity. But if you're going to make change in the school environment, you actually have to change the environment. So, what we do, because we don't have teachers who can teach computer science. At the high school level, we merge it in with math. And we have a partnership, what used to be with Microsoft, now it's with Amazon in our teacher scientist partnership program. And they come in and they teach, and they show the teacher what needs to happen when they're not there, so the kids can continue moving on, and it's in context of a project. So now I'm interested in coding because I have an end goal that's tied to my grade, right? But I also have a project that I help define and I'm interested in. You take that, and then for our younger kids, it's more of an elective or just experiential learning, and it's a little smaller scale, but they're still working with external people. That way, we're not having to, number one, add a whole nother class that not everybody can go to, right? And we don't segregate kids. So we're not adding another class. We're not trying to retrain teachers or anything like that. We're bringing the experts in who know how to do this and who also want to teach. So they get paid their big old salary from their company, and then they volunteer their time with us. And, that's something that could be scalable, is scalable, because we do it in 7 schools right now. But I don't want us to lose the fact that the school structure is what's killing us here. And then the other side is the corporate structure, because nobody ever really talks to them about creating an environment where I feel welcome as a Black woman programmer, right? It's always about pipeline. Well, I can get to your company, and if I feel like the environment is not welcoming to me, I'm gonna leave.
Come on.
I have personally counseled a number of mostly Black men who are trying to leave industry, and I'm trying to get them, they're young, trying to get them to stay to make enough money so that they can come out and volunteer or maybe work in a nonprofit or something, but they can at least have that experience. But look, I don't care how many people of color you get. I don't care how many Black computer scientists you get. It's never going to be a critical mass enough for them to feel like they are welcome in whatever company they work for. So I think the onus needs to be put on these companies. And, maybe the big companies like Microsoft, Amazon, Facebook, they may be too big to change. But all of those companies have people who have startups. And what do? They hire the same people who look like them, who they're comfortable with. And then all of a sudden, somebody calls them on diversity. And it's like, oh, we never thought. I needed to hire somebody right now. That's always the excuse. I needed to hire somebody right now, so I went with who I know. I'm back off of that crap. Otherwise, don't even say you care about Black folks. Don't say you care about people of color. Stop lying.
Yes,
I'm gonna jump in. The truth.
Trish, I'm gonna jump in, and I can't thank you enough, because just like Leolin, way back when, my first computer science class at Mount Holyoke College, way back when we still had the Macs that Leolin described. Yes, it is a women's college. Therefore, there was immense representation around the presence of women in that computer science class. But as I looked to the right and to the left, it was vivid. I was the only one that looked like me, certainly the only one that also sounded like me. And so representation is incredibly important. And so until we are able to replicate, and I hope this happens very soon, an opportunity to replicate institution like TAF, what arguments can continue to be made? And you've made several, and I'm curious if we can expand on those. Until we are able to get to this incredible representation, what arguments can be made in favor of focused recruitment for Black teachers in CS education? This is the first part of my question. what focused arguments can be made around recruiting Black students in CS, and also for the purpose of Leolans and I, including our team here at code.org, which one should we focus on first? Recruitment, focused recruitment of Black teachers, focused recruitment of Black students in computer science education.
I'm just good. Look, I'm gonna sound like a broken record here.
Yeah,
I really am. Those are band-aids right now.
it sure is.
So when I think about Washington State, we don't even have enough money. You're talking about bringing in computer science teachers. We don't even have enough money to do a portion of the things that we should be doing as a state. There are a lot of mandates with no funding, right? We got mandates on class size. We got mandates on, you know, well, there isn't one on bringing in teachers of color. There needs to be one, right? So the teaching industry is just as bad, or the education industry is just as bad in terms of recruitment. TAF runs the Martinez Fellowship Program, where we bring teachers of color into Washington State. We don't really, we're pretty agnostic in terms of what they teach. We want them in our classrooms, but it's really difficult because now you have the issue of teachers of color not feeling welcome in their own daggone school because they're one of 1, 2, or 3, and now they're new teachers, right, coming into the space. And of course, new teacher, regardless of your race, the experienced teachers are going to poo-poo any idea you have because they got it kind of comfy and cushy there, and they don't want you rocking the boat. They certainly don't want you rocking the boat if you're Black, right? And then what they're going to do is send you all the Black kids that they don't want to deal with because under the guise that you can relate to them, right? They never cared about that before, but now that you're there, you can relate to them. And so now you're a new teacher, you got your own responsibilities, you got all these kids that you know you're not going to abandon because you're going to love them, right? And now you're saddled with a Black tax. You can no longer just be a teacher. You got to be all things to Black kids, right? You got to be all things sometimes to all the kids of color, and you got to do your job. So bringing in teachers is not enough. Again, the environment, you got to change the environment that they're coming into, regardless of whether you're talking about teachers of computer science or engineers and computer scientists in their field. The environments are not made for us.
And it's very discouraging. They're very discouraging too. Sister Trish, yes. you look at how they do our babies. They either put them in ISS, they label them with some type of behavioral disruptive issue or problem, and so they don't even like the school setting. And let me just tell you a story about my own son. You know, my son was almost diagnosed with some ADHD, where the teacher is not even a clinician to even do something like that, but wanted to tell me and my wife that my son had an issue because he wanted to stand up at his desk to do his work. So I tell her, move the desk of the corner. So then if he stands up, he ain't bumping nobody. He's doing his work still. Just adjust yourself a little bit. So did I ask her again? I said, and give me your one reason. Give me your biggest issue that you have with my son that you showing me that he has some type of ADHD behavior problem. And she tells me that one day she asked him to go to recess and he gets up very quickly without grabbing his coat and just runs to the front of the line. I said, you better not put that in your notes. You better not. That is crazy that you have the opportunity to do that. So why do I say all that? And I had to also advocate for my son. Let me just tell you this, I had to advocate for my son, and I had to hold him back a year, get him back into an environment where he was getting encouraged to go to school, and then put him back into the school system where now he's thriving because he's now encouraged to stay in school and want to be in school. So you are so right, Sister Trish, around what these schools are doing to our kids mentally. It is discouraging for them to even want to be in that building. So when you talk about recruiting our Black teachers and getting our Black students, my environment is so toxic that you first have to adjust whatever places these babies are learning from. That has to be straightened up. That has to be fixed. There's no way that you're going to put our Black and brown babies in this environment and think that just because you put a Black teacher in there, that it's going to be all good. And you're right, Sister Trish. I go into these schools, they send me right to the ISS. Right to the ISS, Rashad, go talk to these babies. Or Rashad, we got you want a mentor? Or Rashad, go talk to these babies. And they're all in ISS. They're just sitting there. And those teachers those individuals who are sitting at ISS, they're not even teachers or paraeducators. They're people who are just coming in saying that I need a job. So let me just make sure that I can sit here, watch over our babies, and at the same time, they could be finished their credentials to be a teacher. And
Rashad,
so,
can you expand on ISS just for the audience that's listening?
that's the in-school suspension. That's a black room. It's the prison. It's a school to prison complex. That is the gatekeeper of putting our babies inside that prison to school complex, because those rooms, I'm gonna tell you right now, most of them don't have no windows. The curtains usually are closed. It's very dark. It's not even a classroom setup. It's very discouraging for a student to know that they're in a room where they're not even learning any content to get themselves ahead, but they're sitting there because their behavior. That's what that is. So it's very discouraging for us to think that our babies are in environments where they want to learn, that there's some type of programming and they could get into, and not even being in proper classes to even get themselves to be in such a program like we're talking about right now.
And behavior disorder classrooms are pretty much the same as well.
That's powerful.
Right. That's under the guise of special ed.
Exactly what it is.
Yeah, so I know we sound discouraging. I'm sorry, but
no, we don't. We sound truthful. This is the
we
truth.
sound truthful, but I know they want to come out with something. But here's the thing: 90% of teachers in our public schools are white. I don't know how many people know that. And out of that 90%, I would say probably 85% of them are women. Right. We lost all our Black teachers in integration because they were not allowed to have jobs in the integrated schools. And so we've been working hard as a society to get it back. And then you got the other side that says, and this was a personal challenge for me when we started TAP, is, I know we need Black teachers, but I'm trying to get you ready for a tech job, right? And how can I tell you to go be a teacher when I know you can make generational change within your family and your community by getting a job in computer science? And then I'm also sending you to the wolves because I know they don't want you, right? So it's like, God, but you keep doing it. And I don't know what the role is for code.org in terms of changing changing what you want. You want to get more Black teachers, you want to get more Black students into computer science, but it's the infrastructure has got to change. It really does. And until that changes, you'll have success here, success there. Maybe find a school that has already has a high percentage of Black teachers and see if you can wrap code.org stuff around that school and what the possibilities are. But there is no nationwide strategy to do that kind of thing. And honestly, I don't know if we need to be scaling like that, right? It's like we need more depth than breadth. And so this is going to go slower. And I know you young people want to go fast, but it has to, you got to get depth and build relationships. Right now, what's happening is very transactional and it doesn't last, right? And so you need to have those relationships that are deep with teachers, with students, with families, with community for change. And people are finally starting to come around with that. We used to get poo-pooed for that all the time, right? Why don't you scale? Why don't you scale? You can't cause learning. You just can't. So what we can do, though, is to really build a systemic structure so that people can maintain it without having to have TAF there all the time, right? Let's get people started. Let's build community together. And that's how we're going to win. So we need to get away from those majority population methods and move more to what we're used to as a community.
Can you expand a little bit on, and I couldn't agree more with you, and I will take and accept my designation as a youth.
That's good. Hey, all y'all, I'm 63 years old. All of y'all are babies. Come on now.
We'll take it. Thank you. I'm curious if you can expand on the importance of steady does it, right? Really the importance of being able to create this relationship locally, regionally. And Dr. Brown, once Trish is able to take it there, I'd love for you to touch a little bit on what does this look like as you are yourself working and essentially growing teachers. How are you instilling quite a bit of what we're talking about here through your lenses as we're working with teachers? So Trish, take us to the community.
I'll just quickly summarize. It's about building trust. It really is. You know, one of the things I talk to people about, particularly young folks getting into leadership and all that, is that you need to show up as yourself every time so that people know what to expect. And it's the same thing when you're partnering with schools and students and families. They need to know what to expect. They need to be able to trust, right? They already have been marginalized so much and told so many lies. And so for us, it's really important that they know that their kids are our kids, that they understand exactly what we're doing. We're not hiding anything. We're actually sharing with families what their kids are doing, right? That we as an organization are majority people of color. So that helps a lot, right? And so they know, and most of us, well, it used to be, not anymore, but most of us came from Washington State and from this area in particular, right? And so all those things together really build that trust, and we stay with the kids until they understand it, right? It's not like for 2 weeks we're learning this. If you don't know it, we're sending you over here to the kids, you know, to remedial learning. It's like however long it takes you, right? We're gonna stay with you because you got to learn this standard, and your teammates will help you, and right. So it's that whole community. So we shy away from that timeline of by the end of the school year, you need to know these 20 things. You know, you might know 10 of them, and I can see you're emerging on another 10. I'm not going to fail you, right? We see you're growing, right? That's the kind of stuff I'm talking about, right? It's not that quick. Oh, you failed your state test in 3rd grade? We're going to change your entire life because of that one data point. All right, and we're not changing it for good.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Dr. Brown.
Well, you know, along those same lines, I think teaching is always about culture. And this actually addresses the computer science world as well. Culture is not your idea of what people are, but it's your decisions about people. So dealing with the institutions, the businesses, if you look at your leadership team, you've made a decision. Just look at the pictures. Who is your senior leadership? Who's your HR department? Who's your recruitment team? Who are your middle managers? Just look at the pictures, and that will tell you about the decisions you've made about culture. And that speaks volumes, far louder than any diversity statement, the hiring of a diversity and inclusion officer. Your decisions are reflected, the culture is reflected in your decisions. So as a teacher, right, the decisions I'm making is what am I teaching and where does it live? So for example, we've tried to build out a culture relevant curriculum in computer science and engineering. So the question was, what do I teach that the kids will take great pride in? And it's not complicated. We go ask the kids, what are you interested in? Right? What is the thing that you're most curious about? And that's what we teach them to code. So quick examples, and I'll move on, is we had a group of elementary school kids who wanted to build a robot, but here's what was interesting. They wanted to build and program robots to carry groceries for the grandparents, right? So it was about the abuela. The older kids are interested in gentrification. So we were helping them build websites to tell the story of the city of Oakland. So tell me the pride of your community. So the thought is that the actual instruction sends a message. It's a decision. What do I value? And so again, I'll go back to the same point. We don't teach anything. You don't teach computer science. You teach people. And you have to start understanding what they're interested in. And that's where the coding language should be taught. And so that's the big thing, is a real focus on culture.
Student voice and choice.
Culture is big. I teach that. You are totally correct, Dr. Brown. And you know, when I connect with my young people, I'm always trying to bring in the history. James Baldwin, someone that I look up to, he said, if you don't know what happened behind you, you never understand what's happening around you. So you have to bring in, this structural, the context to these babies so they can see it. And they reach and they receive it. I'm so amazed that when people think that, oh, some of this stuff can be boring. No, it's your delivery. It's how you deliver the message. It's how are you and how consistent are you with the message? It's just not no Black history. I don't call Black history. This is Black excellence. This is not history. Yeah. This is excellence all around you that you need to see on a daily basis. So when I do my outreach and engagement, I'm always trying to bring the excellence, regardless of what month it is, so they can see that this is something that's year round. This is your history. This is not this. This is your excellence beyond just your history. This is you. Look what's around you that is part of you that you had no idea. So it's been bringing me joy to be able to bring individuals such as yourself. I've been working with Sister Trish since she opened up TAF. I was probably one of the first mentors that came into that school to meet with some of those students and really talk to them. So, and I have nothing but the utmost respect for what she did. And I still love that school, what she's doing. And so, the outreach and engagement piece is very important. We cannot go and recruit our babies. We have to do engagement and outreach with them. Yes. It's a big difference. Absolutely. When you recruit, you're going for numbers, and then your mindset is set with that Western civilization mindset where we're looking for numbers and measurements, where you need to get to our way of interacting and engaging, which is more relational. So you have to go in wanting to engage and wanting to do outreach, true outreach. I'm not trying to recruit you. I'm trying to engage with you. So that means that you have to bring in all types of different information that represents who they are so they can see it.
Yes. Yes.
Woo, these are.
I know. It's
well, listen, we knew this would happen. 1 hour is not enough. It's not nearly enough. I will say this: these are we are consistently rethinking our outreach. Not just Leolin, not just myself, but the entire outreach team. Rethinking our outreach, with having incredible level of mindfulness. What I have gathered, what we certainly have gathered collectively, is Dr. Brown talked to us really thinking about student empowerment, psychology of performance. Trish, you highlighted the importance of creating a structure that is welcoming, that is grooming, that is creating that foundations for students to see themselves in this curriculum, and also specific around community engagement, right? Grow steady, slow. Dr. Brown, you also highlighted the importance of co-designing as we are bringing not only teachers, but students, engaging them into the process of what it means to be able to be part of this curriculum. Brother Rashad, you definitely talked to us about thinking a little outside of the box. So certainly we go into these, into computer science, into tech. What does it look like to bring it back to the community? What does it look like to be able to think about access to those advanced classes? How do we normalize and to a certain degree almost demystify what it looks like? And culture. You took us home, Dr. Brown, in terms of rethinking what culture looks like. So I certainly, these are a few of many gems that you shared with us. Trish, you are very right. This is just a beginning. We are appreciative of your time being here with us. And our co-moderator, Leolin, is gonna.
Well, actually, before we wrapped up, I just wanted to give you all do have a couple more minutes. If there's anything that you feel like you wanted the audience to hear that you haven't got a chance to say or we haven't asked, here's the perfect time. We would love to hear anything else you all would like to close us out with.
I would like to see everybody that says they care about Black students and all students of color to actually go on a personal anti-racism journey. We don't need allies, we need co-conspirators. And in order to be a co-conspirator, you need to also be anti-racist. So it's not enough to say, I don't condone racism. You got to take that next step further. And it's going to be painful as hell. And there are going to be some roadblocks, but it will say a lot about whether you're true to it or not if you push through it.
Mhm. And I always I like to end just saying that, we come through this month of February, we say Black history, but like, again, I like to say Black excellence. And a lot of DEI work wouldn't even have started if it was for our Black plight or Black injustices that happen then and continue to happen to our babies, our Black and brown babies in these schools. So just like Sister Trish, I like her as co-conspirator. I say accomplice. I just say, what, help me build the whole plan and help me tear it down too. So if I get caught, you right behind me saying I helped them. And
Right.
so, I don't want you to talk about something. Oh, I heard about the plan, but no. I don't want you hearing about it. I want you to say my hands was on it too. And so I love it. But I would just say that, there's so many babies out here that we cannot forget. I work with incarcerated youth, and this is the shirt that I represent today with them. And I told them that I'm gonna give them a shout out, and it stands for making a difference every day, made men. And these are young fellas who are getting out of the prison incarcerated system, and they're becoming part of our community again. So even introduce them to this type of field is something that I've been doing. So this is good. So I just want to give a shout out, and then also say thank you to you for inviting me for this this excellent panel with these esteemed guests, with these doctors.
Thank you. So Dr. Brown, I see your Twitter handle on your background. Brother Rashad and Trish, where can the folks find you on social if they want to continue to follow you?
I'm Trish Dziko.
Yeah.
And all of my platforms, Trish Dziko.
Yeah. And I'm Rashad Norris, and I'm relevant engagement on my Instagram and LinkedIn, and then Facebook, Rashad.
Perfect. Thank you. So on behalf of co.org, we'd like to thank all the panelists for their time today. I was taking notes, and I had to remind myself that I'm moderating this. I can't just, I'll watch the recording later. So I really appreciate you all's time. Like Sabine said, an hour definitely isn't enough time to discuss this topic, but hopefully the audience, you were able to gain some knowledge and action steps that you can take back to your school districts and classrooms. When we close, the survey will pop up. Please take a couple of minutes to complete it, as it will provide us valuable feedback on this panel, as well as help us to ensure that the next series of panels will be as valuable to you as this one was. If you're a school or a teacher or school administrator and are interested in co.org's computer science professional development, applications are now open across the US, and yes, scholarships are available for teachers who meet the requirements. Please visit co.org/apply for more information. So this panel is a part of a series of panels on recruiting Black students and teachers to computer science that we will be hosting throughout the next few months. Please follow us on Twitter @code.org to stay up to date as these are scheduled. Thank you all so much again for watching, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Take care, everybody.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you. Y'all be good, be safe, stay healthy.
Yes.
Thank you too.